how to run your transformation, right? In 2011, I was in the countryside of France because I was sent there as a coach. I thought it was just to help a project. We were two coaches. When we arrived there, very quickly we realized, actually, these people were on the sink of sinking their company. And in this area of countryside, of the country of France, if you lose your job there and you're a software engineer, you're not going to find another job. So their lifestyle was at stake, their job was at stake, their family life was at stake. That's where I realized that we were going somewhere a bit beyond simply delivering more frequently, having a nicer place to work. So I decided for once to open a book I had been recommended for a while. I did research on change management because we could not pass on any single factor to help these people succeed and save their job. So finally I opened a book I had been recommended for a while that happened to be Leading Change from Kotter. I'm not going to actually talk in detail about that book here, but that was my journey into something that later, with my former employer, that was Octo, we realized there is so much at stake when people are undergoing an agile journey that we started to use the word transformation. We're not the only one who's been using it. People have talked about it for digital, for any technological disruption. Everybody's doing transformation now. And I'm excited for them because I see the result when it works. But I see what's going on around here. We got to talk. So let me start by a little piece on what's the problem with our agile transformation here. They are so complex. Talking about complexity, anybody familiar with the Stacy matrix? It's just a representation of how to address different level of complexity in problems you want to solve. How much do you know about the problem? How much do you know about the solution? And as an organization, how much uncertainty you have? And basically it tells that when you know everything, it's simple. When actually you need a little bit of expertise to get it done, to solve it, it's called complicated. This is how far you can go with predictive approach. Like you know the problem, you can figure out the plan. Complex, this is the moment where prediction can't work. You got to start doing something to see how it reacts and adapt. You cannot figure that out. And when really you can't make sense of your situation, you do something and you can't understand what's the effect of it, this is chaos. So, for example here, I would say basically, what's simple? Painting a room, right? In the end, what are you doing? You got to go from that side to that side. Left to right. Predictable. I call that predictive plan because you know what you're going to do even at the end. And okay, if you do that for real, and if we're working with painters, you know it can be slightly more complicated than that. You may want to do several layers, you may want to prepare the walls, but basically, with a bit of expertise, you can figure out already how you're going to do it, and my criteria about determining what's a predictive plan, do you already know what you're going to do in the end? That's predictive. What is not predictive? I'll give you a simple case. Anybody do martial arts? Or, I don't know, competitive sports? First, well, let's go competitive sport. You do baseball. Not baseball, I'm saying. Basketball. You enter basketball. What is the last action you're going to do? You can't know that. You got to get there, and you will have to figure it out on the go. This is too complex for prediction. That's an example. So here's the problem with the Agile transformation. They are too complex for predictive plans. They are not like a painting job. Why are they so complex? First, there's so many things we're changing in Agile. It's not just changing the color. You're undergoing several transformations. It's not like, hey, we've been there, we've been white, let's be blue. It's to a triangle, to a banana. The nature of what you are going to become will be altered. Your form is going to change, not once, several times. So when you want to undergo an Agile transformation, you have no idea how you're going to be in a year, in 2 or 3. If you make progress, you don't know how you're going to be in the end. Second factor, we're dealing with humans. Humans have emotions. They react differently. When you say to people, we're going to do an Agile transformation, in mainly, say, in a hierarchy or a typical big company, people who are there, they're at the top of their career. They usually have the highest level of responsibility they ever had. Their career has been progressing. They have more money than they had in previous moments of their life. Their family is looking up to them for that. This is their status in their neighborhood, probably. They did what they did the way they did, and it got them there. And there you go. Time to change all that. Time to do differently. Everybody will react differently. Some will be scared. Some will be resistant. Some will be excited. Some will be skeptical. We all have different ways to react. How do you want to predict all these reactions? You can't predict that. The level of complexity, and you can't figure out all the possibilities. It's too complex. Plus, it's not like we're alone. It's an enterprise, no matter how you want to describe it, as a hierarchy of responsibility, if that's your style. It's a network, very rich and complex. People talk, they chat at the cafeteria, they influence each other. Sometimes they go to lunch together, they work together, they change position, they change companies, they come back in the company. It's a network. You can't figure out. You can't predict what's going to happen when you do something. So, this is where we are. Somewhere between complex or honestly very chaotic. So, it's not a painting job. That's not how you should plan your Agile transformation. You can't see where you go. Your journey goes beyond your horizon. So, how are you supposed to handle that? Let's recap a little bit first. We know 3 characteristics that we want in everything in our approach. Your approach has to be simplifying. Simple and simplifying. So, you can't add complexity if you want to solve a complex problem. So, you have to be simplifying. You gotta take care of the human dynamics, and it's going to be an exploration. You don't know how it's going to be further down the road. I'm going fast to this part because I want to jump to the next. Just quoting here 2 books that I find very defining for me. When you have a lot of things more accurate and more process-oriented, inspired me a lot. But I don't want to go in details about them. One is Leading Change from John Kotter. There has been several of the books he did. There's been a novel he did out of that. And Good to Great by Jim Collins. Both of them, super studies on successes and failures on companies that had success. Yeah. But I just want to jump quickly. Just what do they tell us? So we can't go by just describing the list of the task up to the end. So what do we do instead? I'm going to go fast on that part. Basically, you define a vision and a strategy. A list of goals you want to go toward, which means all the other goals, you set them aside. I'm not going to bother you. So definition of strategy, picking goals. And a vision, so you can't describe what are the tasks, but you can say, this is what we want to achieve or toward where we want to go for the company. And I'm doing like that because it's beyond the horizon, but that's something you can tell people about. So you can't tell how it's going to be made, but you can give some guidance and a direction. And how you do from there, you explain it. You explain, 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 you explain. It comes out of all of the references of all the successes story. You do not order people into changing. You do not order people into thinking. You gotta explain down to the last person. You hear it in extreme ownership. It's military stories. A surgeon telling you every single soldier must know the plan and the strategy. I passed you on that, but explaining your vision is in every book. Everybody gonna understand. Wait. You know that explaining means also listening. So to rephrase, you explain and you listen. Do they get it? Or they didn't? Well, if they didn't, it means two things. Either you're wrong in the first place, so it's not the right vision, or the strategy doesn't make sense, or you're not good enough at explaining for them, since we're different. So work on it. Basically, explain, listen, explain, listen, explain, listen, explain, listen. I agree fully with Carter. You don't miss the explanation by a factor 1 or 2. You miss it usually by a factor 100. 3 town halls a year can't provide people a sense of vision. You have to be boring. People have to stop you from explaining it. But everybody should get why that change is happening, because remember, it's going to be very uncomfortable and sometimes scary. Now, how do you do that? What do we see coming from the success I've seen and the success story you've seen? Let's reset the expectation a bit. What are we trying when we're doing Agile? You want to have one team starting to try that thing called the Agile methods, practices? They have to be outstandingly great. We're not going Agile to be fine. Okay, neither. It's about being great. If you've been seeing a team starting in Agile, normally, regularly, on average, you should be surprised. You're proud to be their colleague. You're excited for them. They are going to be outstanding. And this is exactly how you should start. It has to start as a blatant victory in your organization, a blatant sign of progress. The first attempt you make should actually put down a reference like, yeah, it's possible, it's working. But I want to make you very cautious. You recognize the Lord of the Rings? You may not see, but everybody revering them. That's my idea. Normally, people will start to talk about that story. So it has to be done right first. You don't scale something that was half-baked. If you have something that is not done right, if you don't know so far how to make it great, do you want to scale something that is not great in your company? You're going to scale problems, and you're going to rush it. I'm going to go a bit on this later. So people start to talk, and very quickly what you say, there is an organic growth. Why is that? Because people talk. You know, it's a network. So one of the phenomena you want to see happening, I remember when I'm coaching team, for example, say I'm coming for a transfer, you had 1 or 2 or 3 teams you start with, and quickly over, say, 3-6 months, normally, there's always a moment somebody comes up to you, you don't know that person, they're from another level, or another, so I've been seeing what you guys are doing. I'm from another project, another division, and I thought it was interesting. I opened a couple of books, I asked a couple of questions when you weren't there, and so we tried, we started. And now we realize there's been more to it, so do you think you have time to help us? That's a good sign. People start to ask for it or experiment outside of any plan. And so you see that notion of what I call organic growth. You heard about it. Ajay spoke about it also with his client. It's kind of the same idea. People will start to pick it up. Traction will happen. This is not hippie BS. This is exactly what you see happening in the companies I've seen undergoing a proper transfer, but also in all the success cases you will hear. People talk, but then what do you do with that? Actually, you don't have to force anything from there. What's your role if you're a manager or a leader trying to take care of that transfer? Should you push for it? Should you pull for it? Actually, don't do any of this. Just make sure, because there are counter forces. There is traction, because there is attraction. There is also counter forces that we name. Some people are scared. Some people don't understand what it's going to be. Every organization and system like to be conservative. The organization wants to survive. So what you could do if you're in charge of, or if you're trying to transform your organization, is nurture it, help lifting the obstacle when it's going to grow and spread. A couple of ideas. First, visit the people, support them, ask if any voluntaries want to pick it up. Don't force voluntaries. But basically, you start to act more like a gardener. Now, you may want to ask, yeah, but isn't it so dramatic? Because what's happening over there? People look at that, they make 1 or 2 attempts, and they say, now let's go for the whole division. But very top down, somehow. Yeah, how is it wrong? How is it wrong if you don't start it right? Well, basically, we know it's sort of going to fail. It's going to drag and drag and drag. My personal estimate, every failed attempt in a company, from I personally witnessed, was somewhere between 2 to 5 years lost. In the end, probably you're going to make that agile transfer. But what's going on? One team try, another one is half-baked. At some point, there's excitement, but you don't see result for your business or whichever progress you were looking for. It's not going on. And someday, after 1 year or 2 years, pouring money, coach and consultant maybe, but half-assing everything you do, and with actually no blatant result or proof of progress, somebody will say, time to stop the circus. Right? Let's get back to business. We try that agile thing that is not for us. I've seen it, honestly, everywhere. What happens usually, it's going to take 1 or 2 years. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. They're going to keep struggling with what they struggle with. And after 2 years or something, another boss will come, will take over, will look at that and say, look, why do we still have this problem? Every other competitors, they all say that they managed to make that agile thingy work, and we can't. Come on, guys, let's be serious here. And then, new attempt. So, yeah, sure, you keep at it, you're going to do it, but 2 to 5 years. And in between, you ever heard the word change fatigue? I learned it here. In the middle of the change, it's not comfortable for the reason I mentioned before. This is human dynamics. There's so much pain and struggle. That's probably the main reason I'm doing that talk right now. Because while you're struggling, it's a pain. Trying, getting out of the comfort zone, and then back, and then again, and then back. And you know who I'm talking about. Most of the big companies I hear about, when we talk among coaches, they've been dragging for years. And let's face it, in the first 6 months, you should have blatant victories. In the first year, it should grow. Sure, you will have struggle, but when we say organic growth, you should be on a flywheel of progress and success. You already should feel that your organization is different after 2 years. But are blatantly different in terms of results. So, if you don't get it right first, slow down. Slow down. Slow is the fastest way. First, you got to do it right, let it grow. The momentum is the proof that you are going toward the right direction. And then, because you do it slow, then it's happening. Then you can't imagine how fast it can go. When you have trained 10 teams, I can tell you that the next 5 ones are going to go faster, because suddenly they're not. You're already different. Remember the change of form over time. You're not already the same company or the same context you had a year before. So suddenly, the next team coming to Agile, they've seen it going. They hear the cheers. They can talk to people who start to have a bit of experience in that, at least a year. They can compare the practices and everything. That's what you're looking for. Slow down is the fastest way to go. Take your time. Let it grow. So basically what you see coming is, at some point, there is no such thing as you don't scale it. You nurture it. That's it. That's all you got to do. And if it's not working, that means you're on the wrong track. No need to force it. So, hate is going to hate. But what does that mean? Looking back at the principles we mentioned, do you need a framework? Wait. When you read something, a document that tells you, hey, we can see how you can get agile and organized up to your portfolio, up to 100%, up to a multi-team product and division. And there's already a whole graph for that. It becomes very hard to tell yourself, no, I'm going to start small and I'm going to let it grow. Because the whole plan tells you, we have figured it out. To me, framework, honestly, just glorified painting job. They imply that you can predict where you're going to be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. They imply that you know where you're going. You had the dynamic. We're too complex for that. Glorified painting job. Not working. So I'm going to go through a couple of factors that I see, and maybe in the end faster, or I will show a couple of things like that, and you can ask me later on the questions. So, framework lead to do the same linear wall-to-wall approach. And you know you're going to fail that, but massively. Because when you scale that thing, you got massive problems. One of the things you see also, because you want to nurture it, you got to loosen up. Your transformation cannot be even more rules imposed to people. On the contrary, remember, simplifying. So when people are tied up and you add to them more standard, it's a mistake I made. It's a mistake I've seen from transformation level as a coach and everything. Suddenly, you push out stuff, and I will call it, you be reluctant about standardizing your practices, really. Let the team do whatever they want to do. Be super reluctant, because every time you're trying to make happen a standard, so it's not a nurturing process, you are pulling one more rope on these people who just end up like, they just can't move. Same when you want to tell them, it's all got to be synchronized. No, it's not. Don't ask, we had that with a team last year, one team in Brazil, one team in Singapore. Instead of telling them, this is the minimum thing you should be synchronized on, because they were a sister team, in the same product. We flipped it over and we told them, this is the maximum thing you should be synchronized upon. And there's like a list of 6 things. The rest, we forbid you to share and synchronize your practices. You do not have to do the same as the other team over there. So, same factor, you're increasing complexity, you're tying up people, and that's not how things grow. So, you can't nurture it. Now, I can't understand. There's a method that every single big case that we hear about, the Google, the Amazon, the Spotify, all the clients that I saw actually rising, thriving through a transform, all of them have used it, and I never hear about it. And I'm surprised. Because if we say, don't know framework, then what? How to formalize it? Maybe you should write a book. Do you know what that is? When you are encountering on the process of transformation a new problem. Some people talk about how to do agile budgeting, how to do agile portfolio. The method is just think it through. That's the fastest way. Pardon my French, démerdez-vous. Just figure it out. I don't understand this whole thing about agile portfolio and whatnot. I've seen dozens of clients before the framework era and everything. I saw dozens of clients figuring out how to do an agile portfolio. Why is that? Remember, you're going to undergo several maturity and transformation and progress. When you are having a portfolio question, hey, the way we do portfolio is not adapted anymore. That means you already run you're running many agile teams, right, already, when suddenly it becomes a portfolio question. That means you already have what? At least 2 years down the road, understanding how it works, the principle. So there you are. You have people who have skills about portfolio. You have people, you who are skilled about agile, simplicity, and everything. You're already quite mature. So I remind you, if need be clarified, the process of think it through. So you take the problem, you pick one other person, or yourself, or maybe two other or three person, and you ask yourself, okay, how to do this? And then you figure it out. That's step 3. And then you try it. And if it wasn't so good, you spin it. I don't know. I saw clients at every level doing this in from between 15 minutes and 45 minutes. They crack it. You're going to crack it. You're going to be so smart already when you're at your budget or portfolio questions like, I don't get it. Think it through. I just realized it's so much easier when you're facing people who... The one thing that blows my mind is how nowadays, when you've been too much attached to methods or books or trainings and frameworks, it's like people face that new problem and they're like looking on the book, it must be somewhere. 2 pages must be stuck together because the answer must be in the book. How do I do this? No, it's not in the book. It may not be in the book. Figure it out. It's easier than to take something somebody has written for you, put on the shelf, and take it for yourself, understand if it was the right problem, the right solution, how to adapt it. Okay, beside that, between 15 and 45 minutes, if really it's a ripe problem for you, you're going to crack it. Think it through. You're going to blow everything with that. Google didn't have a book. Amazon didn't have a book. Think it through. Démerdez-vous. Which means also, hate is going to hate, because that makes me think that this whole let's have a methodology thing, it flies in. Why goes wrong with that? While you're busy buying training, so putting your resources in trainings and reading books and basically looking elsewhere for the solution, remember, transformation are hard. So if it's not efficient, you're wasting energy instead of learning to be a learning organization. I said thinking through. It takes time to be a learning organization. It takes time. When you're all busy getting training and all, this is energy lost. You don't become a learning organization in a single day, but in every transfer. It's not always mentioned, but it's over there. These ones you can ask me, but because of the criteria I mentioned, no sign that having a transformation works ever anywhere. It has, why? Because when you create a transformation team dedicated to handling the transfer, you are adding complexity to your organization. So it has to be made of the people from there. Should you put on more coach? No, you don't. You become yet more complex. And remember, you are undergoing several levels. You should leverage on the maturity you already had to scale up. I can go into more detail. But I know, so I've been in this transfer team, a lot of coach at once and all. I can tell you, the problem is, I know we don't do drugs in Singapore, but you got to change high. This is getting people high. You're in part of these teams, suddenly like, you don't touch the ground, you're all busy thinking and talking in transformation instead of being with the people undergoing the transfer, with the team on the field, with the managers, and helping them change. So beware of transformation high. Time's up. So if you want to have one takeaway, my humble takeaway of what I'm trying to say is, it's a journey, remember it's a journey beyond your horizon, so no glorified painting job, right? That just don't work. You can't print. It's made by humans, for humans, with humans. It's an organic progress that you will try to nurture. That's the dynamic you're trying to look at. And it's a learning journey from day one, not after you had many trainings. From day one, you can start to try and figure it out. So, why did I do that talk? When my client tells me they're gonna try Agile, I'm so excited. I know what they're gonna. They don't really see it. I see how great they can become. I see their potential. I know they're gonna change their work for the better. I'm super excited, right? And then there's this mega big transformation, which just like forced pace, showered with trainings, army of coach, and the attempt drags forever. Some company here has been talking about their under transformation for the last 7 years, and there's nothing to show for it. So my belief is that when you come home, you're gonna start to spin it a little bit better, and eventually over the time, I just hope you're gonna see how it's all about becoming great. Thank you.